Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hello, everyone. Good evening. How you doing? Hello. If you're here, please say hi. Oh, let's see. Can you guys see me in the group? Hey, Meg. Am I in the group? Hmm. Do you see me in the group? Let me try something else. I wonder if. Hey, Meg, I can see you, but I don't see that happening in the group. So, I wonder. Okay, looks like it's on my profile. So let me log out of here. Hi, Instagram. It's probably all set on Instagram. However, I need to go into our Facebook group. So let me do that. One second. Okay, so now I apologize because I have been speaking to myself for the most part. So thank you, Phil, for pointing that out. I think I can hear you. Oh, hello. Can't hear you. Not sure if it's my network. I'm sorry, Shil. Hi, Amy. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened. So from the beginning, jeez. All right, let's start all over. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I don't even know what you heard and what you didn't hear, and this is so sad. Oh, Meg. Okay, guys, I apologize for that. Okay, so there were comments on Facebook too. Oh, okay, no sound here. Hello, please. Okay, sorry. Okay, hi everyone. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Yinka Olumorin. Sean, are you laughing at me? My name is Yinka Olumorin, and I am a wonderful coach on this beautiful platform, Acquire Real Estate. I'm a real estate investor, and I was saying that I am. I don't know if I stumbled across real estate investing by chance or I don't know what happened to me, but I remember in the early days, I was watching a lot of seminars and webinars on multifamily real estate investing. And I thought that's so cool to be able to do that without money out of pocket. So they talked about master lease options, strategies, and all of that. And I thought that's so cool, but it was hard to start. It was hard to get in. And well, I think I kind of left that off and just came back on when I saw that actually I could get in easily, right? So, anyways, with 1 year of investing in real estate investing, I was able to say goodbye to 9 to 5. I worked as a licensed pharmacist. I'm still licensed, but I don't do a 9 to 5 job. So, real estate investing has given me the opportunity to be able to replace my corporate income and to be able to actually face what I love to do. I love to help people and I love to build something that would last. And I think a lot of people love to build something that will last as well. So this is very relevant for a lot of us to understand real estate investing. So I did get questions during the week, and I will say within the past 5 days, I just try to think of the questions that I can remember that people asked me, and I said, you know what, let's go ahead and do a Q&A today. So please, I did just introduce myself briefly. If you can go ahead and introduce yourself in the comments and let me know, please, who you are and what you do and what your interest is like in real estate investing. Please go ahead and do that in the comments and we can get started with the questions. Okay, so the first question I was talking about is what's the best real estate strategy for beginners? And I get this question a lot. What is the best strategy really for beginners? Because you hear a lot of things on the internet. People are talking about tax liens, note investing, they're talking about mobile home investing, land investing. There's just a lot going on. And I don't blame you if you're wondering what the best route is or what is the best strategy. Um, so l- let's put it this way. If you want to, your strategy depends on what you want to do. If you want to hustle and not buy a property, but still make money and still be in the space, do wholesaling, it has a lot to do with finding deals and hustling. If you want to hustle and make a lot of money at once, do flipping, right? If you want to build something more long lasting, do rentals. If you want to get a lot of cash flow on a monthly basis, do Airbnbs. If you want to combine everything together, do burrs. So you're basically, when you get into real estate investing, it used to be that in the beginning the only way to start would be wholesaling. And that's the way that I also was taught. Wholesale real estate because you don't need any money out of pockets, right? But later on, I got to understand that actually that's not the best way to go about it. The best way to go about real estate investing is to start ASAP, start to hold properties as soon as possible. Some people are in their retirement age already, maybe a year or 2 years to retirement. And I spoke to a few over the week Some people are just starting out, and it's not too early to start to hold properties. And what properties do for you when you hold them is that, number one, they don't only produce that cash flow that you need on a monthly basis, where you're able to quit your job, or where you're able to already have something going for retirement, but also helps you save on taxes if you have a primary income. Let's say you have a W-2 job and you're that middle class that's paying taxes for the whole country, right? So having your own business, having owning assets helps you, because you can benefit from the depreciation of those properties. Hi, Jania. Good evening. How are you doing? Okay, sorry. So when I logged on to Facebook, it didn't show me the comments. So I had to click to actually see your comments, guys. So I didn't ignore that. I just didn't see it. So good evening, everyone. Okay. Yes. So I advise that you start to hold properties as soon as possible, regardless of who you are, regardless of your level of investing, whether you're a newbie, whether you're just starting out, or whether you're thinking of starting out. It is a great thing. You're going to thank yourself in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years that you started to hold properties. Okay. Then the next question I have on here, and if you have any questions, please type those in the comments. We'll address them quickly. The next question I have on here is about license. Do I need a license? Believe it or not, this is still very confusing for a lot of people, because they see people advertising licenses and real estate. They can't tell the difference between who a realtor is and who a real estate investor is. So if you're a realtor, you need a license. And a realtor is like a broker. A broker is someone that represents people in a transaction, right? So a broker, a real estate um I'm going to say a realtor, which either represents a buyer in a transaction or a seller in a transaction and get commissions for representing. So that realtor is the person who goes about taking people from one place to another to view a property. And then if they wanted to make an offer, the realtor will go ahead and submit that offer. In real estate investing, on the other end, you are actually buying and or selling properties. You own properties, and that's the business you're doing. So why do you own properties? To get cash flow, to make profits, right? So you don't need a license to invest in real estate, but you're going to need to register your business. And the most common way we do that is through an LLC. So we open up an LLC and we'll take it from there. Okay. So you don't need to study for an exam. You don't need to read anything as far as being in the real estate investing space and owning that business. You don't need that. But you're going to eventually need to register your own business. Can you do it in your own name? Absolutely. But there are benefits to registering your own business, right? So you have that legal shield or that protection from liabilities, and then also tax advantages, as the case may be. Okay. All right. So there's a question in the comments that says, how much do I need to start? And I think that's one of the questions I actually got asked during the week. And I think it's on the list I wrote here. How much do I need to start is a big question. And here's what I say: you cannot save enough to start, in my opinion, because the market that you are in might disappoint you. You feel like you've saved enough money, and then you figure that you haven't saved enough. um you might think you have a money problem, but that might actually not be your problem, especially if you have good credits. So there are ways you can combine different strategies. You can combine two different lenders. You can actually have down payments funding, right? In real estate investing, there are products like that where you can be at 100% funding. So there is no certain amount that you need to start. If it makes you feel better, have money. If you have 10,000 and that makes you feel happy that you're good to start, then by all means have it. Whatever amount you want to have that makes you feel comfortable. But if you don't have any money, I think it's a waste of time for you to try to save money to start investing in real estate. At least try to figure out what your options are. First of all, you need to understand how the numbers work on a property. How do you analyze a property? Would this property make sense? Because your lenders are also business people. They're making money from the interest, and they also know how to analyze properties. They have LTVs, they have requirements. They will not lend you beyond a certain amount. And if your deal numbers are exceeding a certain amount, they know not to lend on that deal because it's not a good deal, right? But if your deal meets their requirements, they're happy to lend on it because they see that you have good margin. It's business opportunity for them. So it's very different from the way that you get approved for funding on the traditional side of things when you want to buy a house, right? Because when you want to buy a house for yourself on your own personal use, they have to look at your income. They have to look at your debt to income ratio. How much do you owe on your credit cards versus how much do you have, or do you make on monthly basis, or your paycheck or yearly basis, and that will determine how much price points of a property that you qualify for traditionally. On the real estate investing side of things is different. You can qualify for $1 million and make no income. You can qualify, it depends on the numbers on the deal. If the numbers are making sense, the lenders are willing to lend on it, whether you are a newbie or not. Now, being a newbie can mean that they might not qualify you for a certain kind of project. So, if it needs too much work, for instance, or if it's lopsided, meaning the amount of work that the project needs is way higher than your purchase price, a lot of lenders might say, no, I want you to pick up something less until you have at least one experience. But a lot of lenders are very beginner friendly, especially when the numbers are working. So there is no set amount, believe it or not, to get started in real estate investing. But if you feel like it gives you the confidence, then go for it. Okay. All right. So keep typing your questions. And the next question I have on here is, do I need good credit? Good credit is so helpful. Good credit is so helpful. However, if you don't have good credit, is not the end of the world. You have to try. You have to hustle. So what are you willing to do if you don't have good credit? Are you willing to partner? Are you willing to find the right property and partner with someone and split the profits? Are you willing to go the creative routes? Maybe you want to make a different kind of offer for seller finance, and since you don't have at least 600 in credit, because with the lenders you need around 600 in your credit score. You need to be at 600. Then your credits, I mean, if you're not behind on payments, it's it's quite straightforward to fix, in my opinion. If you're not behind on payments, you don't, or have like a derogatory remark that's messing things up, you probably want to learn the art of boosting your credit score to at least be at 600 plus, right? For lenders to be able to fund you. So the lending requirements is not crazy as far as FICO goes or credit score goes. I think 600 is a barest minimum. So if you're at 600, then you're pretty good, right? If you're lower than that, then there are other strategies to explore. So you can partner, you can go with other kinds of funding that don't need your FICO or credit score. You can do private money lending. How much, I don't like to use the word hustle, but I'm gonna say how much hustle would you be willing to put in if you don't have everything you need? Are you just going to relax and not do anything, or you're just going to go ahead and do whatever it takes to have that profits coming and to be able to fix your credit? And you don't have to hustle that way again for the most part. So it also gives you that resilience. It helps you to be strong and know that you know, you can successfully navigate any challenges as an entrepreneur. So yes, a good credit is great, and if you don't have it, there are other ways you can go about investing in real estate. Someone said in the comments, investors say pay yourself first. How do you pay yourself first? Can you explain, please? So this is if you're already making money in your real estate investing game. Otherwise, there's nothing to pay, right? So pay yourselves first means what? Let's say you close from a closing. You close from a closing. Let's say you just got out of a closing, you got a check, and rather than putting that whole 50,000 into a down payment for another property or whatever else, or reinvesting that into your business, you want to have a system where you also, yes, you're disciplined and you want to reinvest, but also have a system where you give yourself some incentive out of that money so that you can keep pushing, and so that you feel like, because there's a reward system, you feel motivated to do better. Because yes, you're disciplined, but you might be demotivating yourself without knowing. So that's what pay yourself first means. Each time, you have a system, how much of a percentage of the total income am I gonna pay myself? And that's different from maybe paying off bills and stuff, right? Just having something for yourself. Pay yourself from your business, like that owner distribution. Have a system for it, and don't just make it random, like maybe when I need money is when I pay myself. Have some consistency going on, especially if you have a consistent business. Okay. But I don't think that's applicable to a lot of people. I don't think a lot of people have a paying themselves situation or problem. So, but I think I know where you're coming from. Let me know in the comments if that's what you were asking. Someone on Facebook says, "What about buying on seller finance and selling on a lease option purchase after, say, 5 years? What about it? That's great, right? I mean, those are some of the options we're talking about. Like, if you have no credits, you can do this without credit, and you're gonna earn in six figures from that one property. What about buying on seller financing and selling on lease option purchase, say after 5 years? What about it? That's great. Why do you ask that question? I'm curious as to why you're asking, because that is great. If you know how to do that, that is amazing. I've done that as well. And I do that. Well, in the early days, I did a lot of creative financing, right? Um, yeah. So let me know if there's something else in that question, if it's pregnant, and I can answer that. Another question I have on here is, what is a typical turnaround for a deal? What is the typical turnaround time for a deal? Depends on the deal. So if you're wholesaling, typically within 30 days, you're able to get your wholesale fee, because most properties close within 30 days. Okay. If you are doing a flip, it can be 4 months and upwards, depending on, or it can be less in a few cases, depending on a bunch of things: the duration of repairs, and also how long it takes for you to sell that property. And that's why when we're analyzing the market, we look at what's the days on market is for that market. Call it days on market, DOM. How long does it typically take on average for properties to sell in that market? Right? So if you're already seeing 60 days on market, then you just got to budget and give some extra time. Okay. Either way, you want to give room to sell. Within a year, you should be able to consummate that deal. But typically around 4 months is a good timeline. So you're not expecting like immediate returns. And that's why you need funding. Because if you were using your savings, that means before that property sells, you cannot do anything. You can't do another property, right? So that's why funding gives you leverage. You can do multiple projects at once. If you want to focus on flips, then you can do multiple at once. You can do five, six projects at once, right? Depending on your capacity and how you feel about that first project. And then subsequently you can start to, and if you have your first project on the market, just move on to the next one, and maybe even do two this time around, right? That way you're not waiting forever for closing to happen. And once your deals are ripe, they just close, one, two, three, go, right? It was the day I had like three closings on three flips on the same day, right? So those can happen. if you have leverage. Nobody's expecting that you have all the money in this world to be able to do multiple projects. You just need to understand how funding or lending works. Okay. Hey guys, everybody again. I'm just gonna say hi to you. Welcome. Hi Deborah. Hi Todd. Hi Phone Care. Hi Wally Johnson. Hi everyone. Hi Dr. Nakoma. Hi Kay. Hi, there's some names I can call because the way that Instagram works. Anyways, hi everyone. So I'm going to move to the next question. If you have a question, go ahead and drop that in the comments. If I see it, I'm going to read that. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead with the questions I got during the week. There's a question in the comment that says, "Where are these properties found? I keep looking on Zillow, but they're so expensive." Finding out properties is an art. Is an art. Is an art. Location is an art, right? So there's nobody's gonna point in a certain area and say go this way. Maybe except you're in coaching, right? Maybe except you're being coached, but you can't just open your computer and find these properties, right? It's an art. And sometimes you're seeing the deal on Zillow, the same Zillow, but if you don't have the right understanding, you might not even know that that's a deal. For example, how much would it sell for? What is the after repair value or the ARV of that property? Do you know what the ARV is? Because if you're off with your ARV, there's no way you're gonna think that that property is a good deal, right? So yes, they could be on Zillow. They are on Zillow, but they're also off market deals as well. So you can find them on Zillow. You can find them off market as well. But the most important thing is knowing how to analyze a market and how to analyze a property. Another question here says, can 15K start any affordable investments in 2026? Yes. And I just talked about that. And I said that, believe it or not, you you don't need to have money saved. It helps, it's good. But if you don't have money saved, you can still invest in real estate. So 15K is great. Yes, 15K is great. And yeah, believe it or not, we have lenders that can supplement your funding in such a way that you get 100% funding and you don't have to bring money as down payment to closing for down payment. Okay, so yes, 15K is great. You don't need 100K, and you might need more than 15K eventually, but it doesn't have to come from you, right? Because if you're doing more than one property, then you need more than that. But I would say leverage lenders that do this, and you can pay their part and you get your own. Otherwise, you just really wouldn't make good money and you would be losing out on good deals and good opportunities. So leverage is key here. Okay. All right. So I'm gonna go to the next question here. Okay, types of real estate investing. There are many types of real estate investing. I talked about wholesale, I talked about flipping, I talked about rentals, I talked about doing Airbnbs, I talked about doing BRRRRs, we call them buy, rent, refinance, repeat, that whole process. There's tax lien investing is a way to find properties. Section 8 is a way to lease out properties, so you're not confusing it as a type of investing. Mobile home investing is a type of investing because you're not doing like the regular single family. It's just mobile homes are mobile in nature and is a different kind of real estate investing. Some people do student housing, so there is a bunch of things you can do, right? But whatever you do, cash flow is king. Cash flow is king. Which is easier to get into for a newbie? I think single family investing is the easiest. That's where we're seeing this double funding happening. Single family investing. And that helps you also grow experience so that you can grow your portfolio and not just that, have a record of working with lenders, and you can scale your portfolio. If you want to move into multifamilies from single family, I'm going to tell you this, right? Because some people feel like multifamily is like the king of it all, which it can be, but not every deal. So if you have, say, 50 doors of multifamily, you still might not be making as much of a cash flow as someone that has 10 single family properties, right? It's the strategy that matters and how you bought the property. So, whatever you choose to do, make sure your cash flow makes sense. So I'm not someone that moves people into multifamily, but every newbie I say do single family because within the next 6 weeks, you can get your single family property under contracts and do your first deal. That's how easy or simple or straightforward it is to do single family properties. And technically, whatever you learned doing a single family deal or project is what you carry over or take on into the multifamily space, right? It serves as a very good foundation for you, right? Okay, so comments here says, question: if you sell a property for 200,000 and you need to reinvest to not pay capital gains, mhm, can you now buy more than one property and just put 20% on each? So if you're selling a property for 200K, that's not your profit, right? That's the sale price. So I'm curious how much your profit is, but yes, you can do whatever you want with your money. I'm not an accountant, so I don't give tax advice. But there's something called I'm trying to remember what's that called. Please type in the comments if you remember. Now it skipped my memory. Um exchange, yeah, 1031. Yeah, 1031 exchange where you can, but it has to be a like property, right? Where you're selling one and you're buying another one. It has to be very similar to the one you're selling. So if that's a multifamily, then it needs to be a multifamily as well that you're buying. It has to be a like property and it has to be within a certain time frame. So I believe around 90 to 120 days thereabouts is when you need to do the exchange in order not to pay capital gains taxes. If that makes sense. Let me know if that's answering your question. But yeah, if you don't want to do a 1031 exchange, you can certainly put that into other properties and just put 20% on each property if that's what you want to do. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Can I do this part time, full time? You can do it part time. You can do real estate investing part time. I think most people do it part time. And I think less number of people do it full time. Correct me if I'm wrong. What are you guys seeing? But what I see from my space, I think most people do it part time. So yeah, you can do it part time and be very successful. I think full time for most people, at that point when you feel like you're getting to that point to choose full time over part time is when you feel like your time makes more sense when you're investing your time in your own business and you feel like your business needs your time to grow and you feel like you putting your time to your business will generate a greater return than putting it into a 9 to 5. So I think it's at that point that many people make a decision to switch from part-time to full-time. But yes, get started part-time. And if you don't have a job, you're already full-time automatically, right? So yes, full-time, part-time, all of those work. Is this a good time to buy properties? That's the other question. Is this a good time to buy properties? There's no market that people are not asking these questions. If you haven't noticed, during the pandemic, when prices were even better and interest rates were lower, people were asking if it was a good time to buy properties. Before the pandemic, People were asking. When I newly got into real estate investing, people were asking if it was a good time to buy properties. So I think we will always have these questions. And while we're asking, property prices will continue to go up. But here's what I'm going to say about being a real estate investor. Regardless of the market, you got to swim with the tides. It's like you're in a beach and you got to learn the art of swimming the beach. Not everybody can swim the beach, especially a turbulent beach, right? So you got to know how to ride with the tides. The real estate market is either one or the other. There's like a switch, it's a circle. We're either up there, down there. So we have the buyer's market and we have the seller's market. Whatever is going on, it's either we're in a buyer's market or a seller's market. So it's either we're moving from buyer's market to seller's market to buyer's market. We're kind of in between, transitioning. And in a buyer's market, as real estate investors, we are buying. In a seller's market, we are selling. We're buying to hold, right? In a buyer's market, we're buying to hold. In a seller's market, we're doing activities like maybe flips, or we're selling a portfolio that has generated a lot in equity. And we feel like selling that will be a good basis to start on a bigger platform, or to go for a better return on investment opportunity. So that's really what we're doing. And don't feel like there's actually no perfect time to start. The perfect time to start was yesterday, and as of yesterday was the day before yesterday. So yes, this is a good time to buy. If you wait next year, today would have been a better time to buy. Okay, should I buy multifamily properties or single family? I think we talked about the single family, a multifamily. It depends on the return on investment. It depends on the cash flow. If you're not making enough cash flow, and even if it's 100 units, I'm gonna choose a simpler portfolio that will give me better return on investment. Would lenders fund newbies? Would lenders fund newbies? Yes, they would fund newbies. Would I need to register a business? Yes. How do I protect myself from losing money? And I'm saying that quickly because we already talked about that. How do I protect myself from losing money? So, protecting yourself from losing money, this is a great question, really, because everybody is afraid to lose money and it is a legitimate fear. So, your due diligence that we perform, inspections, things like that, making sure that you have exit strategies. If the strategy doesn't work, can I do another strategy? And also having the right team, having the right contractors. There's a lot of things to do when it comes to due diligence so that you don't lose money. Todd here says if one is low on the initial cash to begin, this would provide no bank requirements, flexibility of the terms to both seller and buyer, as well as non-refundable. Todd, what are you talking about? Was the response to a question on good initial strategies? Okay, I can look into that. Look at that later. Yeah, that comment should still be there. That way I can focus on what you're saying. Since that's not a question, okay. And I have one final question here. What are the biggest mistakes beginners make? And this is a great question. What are the biggest mistakes beginners make? Hmm. So, the first one I would say is, and beginners can make a lot of mistakes. The first one is just assuming that because a property is cheap, you got it on an auction site or you got it from tax lien, that it is a good investment because it's cheap. Now you got that property for 20K and you go into that property. Unfortunately, at auction, you couldn't see the property because it's one of those properties you can't go into. And so you go in there and you figure you need a lot more repairs than you actually thought. But you think, okay, it's okay. It was cheap. And you go and start the work with a contractor. Unfortunately, because you don't even know how to manage a contractor, the initial contractor ran away with your money? Has it happened to anyone here? Type in the comments if it has happened to you. When a contractor takes your money away because you didn't have the right documents, you didn't have the right screening process, you didn't vet the contractor right, you start all over. You actually could be negative right there, depending on how much they ran away with. You put down too much deposits. You had no idea that you could do less deposit, but they insisted they wanted 50% down, right? You didn't even have a scope of work and you didn't have a payment schedule. Now you bought this property thinking it's cheap. Unfortunately, you're faced with the hard realities of real estate investing when your due diligence is not done, when the numbers are not calculated correctly, and when you have no clue how to even go about it. You just bought it, you think it's a great investment, right? So that is a big one that many investors make. Okay, so I think we should end the session here. I have a resource for you guys. It's the fastest way to start real estate investing, a formula. So if you want that, type fast in the comments. And I have Meg send that to you. Meg, I'm gonna send that to you as well right now because I don't think I remember to send that over earlier on. So type fast, FAST, F for Frank, AST in the comments. And Meg is going to send that over to you. So type fasts in the comments and you're going to get the resource on the fastest way to start real estate investing and the formula you need there. So type fast in the comments and I think we are good for tonight. Meg, I think you have everyone. And with this, I believe we have come to the end of the meeting tonight. I'll see you guys on the next one. For now, I say goodbye.